One of the two.
Call the zoning department and ask them what I can do with the land.
And I believe you, John.
Please understand, we understand this is a controversial issue, and there's two sides to every issue, so we understand that.
I just wish Mr. Mearns had a better viewpoint of what you should do with land that abuts natural areas. I just,
Like
it's
I
a
said,
little
there's-
frustrating. You
DNR
can't force them to, I know,
Everybody,
but
like I said, there's two
I-
points of view on everything.
I
I'm
just
sure you
want to
think the same
verbally
thing about what you're
express
saying.
that so that he knows why people are complaining.
But DNR has wrote a letter saying that if it was an area that was critical, they'd expressed interest. It's right here in the letter.
Actually,
Yeah, I know.
I know a little history about that. I guess that they were concerned about the industrial waste, right? Just like you probably were when you bought it. And that's why they were hands off, and then another time, another person in charge, they would have been all over it. But you know what? This is our Lorax moment. It is. We might have others. Oh, Dr. Seuss wrote this thing about the truffula trees. Whatever.
Okay, the Dr. Seuss.
Yes. It's our
Time
moment.
to move.
It's our moment.
John, thank you.
Thank you, folks, for hearing us.
And thank you for your opinion as well.
Thank you for letting me share.
Still ask questions? So, since the last meeting, I went back through all of the town meetings from 21 and all of the county meetings from 21 and watched all of them to get the background on it. And over the course of a few different meetings, obviously various things came up, but at one point you said that you intend on building a fence line if it doesn't still exist between your property on the southernmost exposure and where the trail is going into Bald Bluff. To keep
Yes.
you from them and them from you.
Yes.
Is that still one of the things that you,
That was brought up when I had, after the last meeting, when I had taken Winona, Brad sit up there, and Larry Clark. I invited them, both of them up. They came up. I asked Dick to come up. He felt he didn't need to come up, so he didn't come up. And at the time, I shared with Winona, because she was concerned about, you know, the trees, and I'm like, right, we're standing in the home site, okay, from here to what where the fence is, we want to keep those. In fact, I'd like more. And at the time, she was concerned about a fence and possibly, you know, putting a different fence. They were concerned about private property owners wandering onto the forest. I'm concerned about strangers from all over the place parking there and wandering onto our land. Okay, there is a fence there now, and at the time I did say, if it was a matter of, if it made you happy, and you'd say, okay, I'm all for it, if you put the fence up, I'll put the fence up. And truthfully, there probably will be a better fence than there is right now. I think it's a 4-strand barbed wire fence, might even be a woven there right now that goes all the way out from ours, all the way from H, and it goes up to our lot line. And then it continues on to the back 20 acres, which is now Mike Bird's, which is Peggy's grandson. Peggy was the caretaker for Mrs. Young when Mr. Young passed away. She had life use of the house back there. They exercised their right, and they purchased that 20 acres in the back. So that fence goes all the way up. So right now, if you wanted to go on to our land or us go on to DNR, you'd be going over a wire fence this high. And if it's a matter of putting up a new fence, if I feel that people are wandering onto our property, I'm gonna do so. And if it's a matter of making a board feel better, I would do so. I shouldn't have to, because there's a fence there now, and a fence is a fence. But the last board, they were, you know, some people had expressed concerns about people from, you know, that live there wandering into the forest and not being on a dedicated trail. So that's where that came up from.
so I guess one of my questions long-term is whether or not fences can be fences, right? I've got a 4-board fence, horse fence kind of thing around my yard. You've got woven wire. We're not talking like a 6-foot stockade wooden panel dog ear fence, right? Like
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
It's up.
Yeah.
No.
A couple other things that came up when I was going through this stuff. You mentioned it tonight, but in 21, you did have a site plan for this area to be commercial or industrial of some kind, if it wasn't gonna be residential.
Yes, I do.
That still is the case, I assume.
I drew, after the last board meeting, I drew 9 industrial buildings on that hillside. And I went and I pulled my zoning permit. I didn't wanna pull this card. I went and pulled my zoning permit on the 3, right on the lot line. And here's my zoning cards for the 3 that I can start putting those buildings up tomorrow. But I don't wanna do that. I did that just to, hate to say it, but to show people that it's, if you think you stop the houses, we all go home and everything's fine and it's gonna be, the land is going to be used, we'd like to use it. So if we can't use it for our home sites, we're gonna use it in a different way. No different than your home, if you have your house and all of a sudden you wanna put up a shed or a barn or something like that, you're gonna exercise your right. And that's what we did. So I do have a zoning permit for 3 of the 9. I pulled the permit on the 3 that are going to go right on the lot line. Since you brought it up.
No, I appreciate that. One of the other things that I did after getting some of the emails from ladies in the back here, was to obviously dive into meeting minutes, but also, talk with the county zoning directly. Had 5 or 6 different individual conversations on topics pertaining to this parcel, some of the past, dealings that they had and that he had with the town board prior to us. And he also sent along the 21 farmland preservation plan in whole. Additionally, some comments along the way from questions that I had pointed out. A lot of things have been brought up in email to us about environmental corridor and steep slope.
Mhm.
The environmental corridor, I had a question to Matt about defining the environmental corridor, and what exactly it meant, and what it means for any building on this site. As industrial, the environmental corridor does not apply to it, meaning that it can, to Mr. Maring's point, be cleared and graded. If it becomes A3, the environmental corridor guidelines through the county zoning would apply to it. And ask them what made the environmental corridor piece on this parcel specific, because obviously the state owns the land next door and it is deemed a natural area, which ultimately then becomes by de facto part of the environmental corridor regardless of what its use is. In this case, obviously Bald Bluff is a little more prominent than other lands, but one of the pieces in the requirements, I'm gonna say, if it goes to A3, is that it then becomes part of this environmental corridor restriction. And one of the items that the county looks at, again, we're talking about zoning of the parcel potentially, and then we're talking about how something could then be built on a parcel that's zoned eligible to have that happen. It doesn't mean that John gets to build his house wherever it is. So a question I guess that I had was, it prohibits, in an area of environmental corridor that's got 20% slope.
That's right.
Which is still subjective because some of it is man-made and some of it could be potentially natural. But specific to the parcel, building in a steep slope area is prohibited if it's A3, to the point of protecting natural slopes and erosion and those types of things. The county won't allow building to occur in there. The second part of it is that if you apply, and I guess this is where my question is eventually getting to, if you apply, the county is gonna subject all proposed non-agricultural development within the environmental corridor to a site plan and evaluate the development's potential impact on the environment. Again, where is it placed? What's around it? What are they potentially clearing? More than what it sounds like may have already occurred, but have you talked with the county specifically, or is it just too early in the process to talk about what would be required of a single-family home site plan on this parcels, I guess?
No, I have not. The 20% has come up. And the, when we look at the 3 parcels, mainly the 2 back ones, and mainly the one to the north is the one that shows some 20%. The 20% on the back part of it is, let's say, natural. Okay, that's where you can just see it's natural. The 20% on the front part of it is where it's pretty obvious where Mr. Young has basically piled up a pile of dirt in a row to stop the water from coming down the hill so he could pump the water back up the hill. That's the man-made one. And so that one there, the home site would be, you know, right up in the front, not in the back where it's the natural 20%. It would be in the front. The 20% were talked about at the last, the zoning board, the zoning approval board, with the 5-man board. It was talked about, and it was also talked about the man-made, and if they felt that they needed to go out and tour the land, they would do so.
So your house homes out there are not gonna be
They
put
can't.
on the 20%.
They can't, according to what Josh is saying is correct, okay? So you, even though there's 20% within the parcel, the home has to be without 20%. So when you, it doesn't apply right now as industrial, okay, that does not apply. But it does apply when you change it from industrial to A3. Then when we go into A3, as Josh had stated, then you have to, all of these things of the A3 then have to comply, and one of them is the home site outside of the 20% slope.
One more time, how many acres are you wanting to go to A3?
I believe it's 4.2. So like I say, it's, we want, of course, keep as many trees up as possible. Okay, that's why we're doing 1 driveway, and we're not doing 3. You know, we could have 3, one on, and open the whole thing up. That's not what we want. So that's why that one drawing that you guys have is shows 1 driveway going up, splitting off to the first home site, second, third, right there. They're all right there. And Josh, as far as environmental corridor, like the other side of the property on Ballin Lane, where the storage lockers are built, that used to be kind of like a grass field, just like flat right there. If you look at the topo maps, that's actually an environmental corridor.
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions that I asked Matt in my back and forth numerous different times was about a point that got brought up in 2021 on numerous different occasions, and that was 1 dwelling per 10 acres in an environmental corridor. And I said, if it's not allowed, then how is this happening? And essentially, the response that he sent back is that the meaning could be 1 dwelling per 10 acres based on the size of a parcel, or based on a contiguous environmental corridor.
It's not defined.
Which then he said, the ordinance and farm plan do not specify which it is. So, I mean, from the standpoint of, is this going from I to A3? Is there some inherent transitional zoning that the county's using to take it from I to A1 to then be able to move it to A3? I mean, the fact that the county zoning does not define the density requirement, to me, I don't know how we can supersede the county's density requirement. I mean, it's their code, and if they haven't defined it, I don't know that, at least I'm not gonna try to interpret it. But from the standpoint of protecting what's there, I mean, there's other inherent things along with environmental corridor zoning and site construction that they're gonna look at, you know, should, not are, related to natural resource related policies. get both sides of the story, and at the same point, I drive past it twice a day too, not quite as extensively as Mr. Hill gets to stare at it, but if what we're trying to do is buffer, to me, no offense to your storage lockers, but to me, your storage lockers aren't a buffer, other than metallic.
I changed the color of them, at least it's a little bit more soft. The ones up front have the bright red doors, and I thought, out in the forest, at least the earth tone would be better. I mean,
Can you wrap them in Mylar so they just? No offense. Those are the questions I guess I had.
Anybody wanna make a motion? I'll make a motion that we approve the rezone for the Marys on parcels 0240516-3342-01, creating 3 residential lots. Is there a second?
I would like to second it with an amendment, and I don't know if the county's. The last time when we had a conditional use permit out on 59 and Zion, they took into account our request to not have those storage containers there for more than 2 years. But to me, one of the biggest pieces of this is to get clarity from them on density per acre. And if they're gonna go through a review of a rezone, I think it would be inherent upon someone, and I don't wanna put you as a guinea pig for this, but for anyone else in the future in the county, think of all the good things you'd be doing for clarity on whether or not this is a density issue per contiguous corridor, or if it's a per parcel thing. I mean, to me, that is one of the text-based discrepancies is what is a corridor defined as within a parcel, because at the same point, I lived on a parcel on B lot of Blue Spring that had environmental corridor behind it, because it was part of a wetland, but there was still a house there. I know there's a few folks also who have homes where there's environmental corridors in their backyards, so what defines this for the county and for the community moving forward is, if you have any square footage of environmental corridor on your property, are you disbarred from more than one dwelling in 10 acres, or is it based on some larger geographic distribution of that corridor, is a important piece to go along with it. Whether they would answer a question before they vote on it, I guess I don't know, but.
I mean, wouldn't that be put in front of them as this whole thing is as the question?
One would surely hope. And at this point, I'm guessing someone probably will ask the question.
I would guess that too. But that's a good thing, folks.
But, I mean, okay, I'm a board member, I live in the county, I live in the town, but if the board as a body is asking for clarification, I think that holds a little more water than just some crazy-ass Pollock on H that is asking for questions. Answers, sorry.
So you seconded the motion with the stipulation, make it simple.
That they define the density requirements of an environmental corridor.
The county does.
Correct.
You got that, Laura? Any further discussion?
What happens if they don't define it any clearer than it is now?
Well, as history has proved, we've got 40 days to come back with more discussion.
discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion carried. Okay, let's get to the next one here. Mr. and Mrs. Anson, how are you doing? Discussion and possible action to consider the request by Adam and Amanda Anson to rezone from A1 to A3 to create approximately a 2.30 acre lot from parcel 024-0516-3532-002 along Tamarack Road.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I did go out there and see, where he's talking about, you own, the 2.3 acres that you wanna do this with, you own the field that's 33 acres or something?
32.4-ish acres.
So for you to build a home there,
I have to have a minimum of like 2.12 something. So we went with 2.3 to get more offsets, more availability.
have you spoke to the county about this?
I,
And what have they said?
I gotta get passed by you first.
Well, folks, that's just what that is out there, and you know where, his brother built a new house where their, would be grandparents grew up.
Yeah, we've been there since like 1862.
Well, very nice to keep things going out there.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, and it's, questions?
I reached out to the county on this one, cause I guess I'm just that guy. I was curious about the number of lot splits based off of, call it an original 40 that would have been out there as a farmstead. And how many times it can be split and then what the remnant acres are. And I learned something which was fun. So originally, the large 40 was there, lot number 1, which is the northern one that Dennis's property is on, was split in the 80s. And then when Andrew raised and rebuilt the house, they did that split as part of a farm consolidation, which doesn't count against the overall amount of splits for the property.
Yeah, because that was also the homestead, the original homestead of the property.
Which is why they now get to do, call it a third split of only, of not breaking up the entirety of it. So, the zoning of everything behind would stay, wouldn't be split of all again in the future, and this would be the eventual end of acreage and
All she wrote.
residential.
Yeah, no more splitting. So we just have a nice field to look at.
And beer,
Yeah.
and turkeys.
Can't see
Is that
it.
on
You got any questions, Rob?
No.
I make a motion that, we allow the assets to go from A1 to A3 to create a 2.30 acre lot. Parcel 024-0516-3532-002 along Tamarack Road.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Happy building.
Thank you.
But I know who's gonna build it.
Yeah, you can figure that one.
Make sure it's big, we need the taxes.
Too fancy.
Anyway, try to have both.
Well, you did with your phone.
Oh, yeah, that was ridiculous. I'm sure my wife will give a lecture for her. Okay, number 3, discussion and possible action on the request by the Blue Spring Lake Management Board to use the town hall for their board meetings.
We've done most of our board meetings for the last couple of years, well, ever since COVID, and maybe before via Zoom. And some of us on the board feel that getting the board together, the management district together face-to-face is a good idea, at least a couple times a year. And so, Lake District would just like to ask permission to use this town hall, and since I'm on the lake board, I've got a key, I'm able to
And
take care of that, manage it, open it up, lock it, et cetera, et cetera.
Josh? I have a problem with it.
How much does the school charge for the room?
I think it's $25 a night.
I thought it was like $1,000 per minute.
Well,
Anybody-
no, if they charge 25, we make it 24.
Who are you talking
so it's
to?
advantageous. We're not gonna, I mean, from the building security standpoint, we're not gonna have problems with either one, like, we're still locking this one in your.
Yeah.
Right?
Are there any insurance issues with that, with it?
As long as they provide proof of, I'm assuming the district has some sort of liability insurance from something.
You may wanna write that down, check, what's his name, Hoffman out there?
I'll talk to him. I make a motion that, we allow the Blue Spring Lake Management Board to use the town hall for their board meetings 2 or 3 times a year, pending resolution of the question on insurance coverage.
Motion's been made to allow the Blue Spring Lake Management Board to use the town hall, which Supervisor Martins will be in charge of opening, closing up, et cetera, as long as they have the proper insurance. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action on a new contract with Jefferson County Humane Society.
I have a functional question you may not know the answer to, Laura, but if your dog goes to dog, not your dog, but, well, your dog,
I have a
sure.
cat.
If your cat goes to cat jail, do you end up paying a cat fee, a jailing fee too?
We've gotten a couple of letters from the Jefferson County Humane Society when they have had to pick up stray dogs. And when it's a dog from the town, the person has to pay some money to them for them to get it back, and then they reach out to us, has that dog been already licensed? And so the main issue for us is, does the dog have a dog permit? And if they don't, then we get that from them.
Do we have any sort of, I'll call it performance data on how many cats, dogs, or other domesticated animals they pick up on an annual basis?
Do I have that? We can ask for it.
I know what the alternative to this is, and I don't wanna be the town dog catcher too, so. My curiosity though is if it's based per capita, how active are their services?
Well, in the old
Is it
days,
$3,500 for one dog a year, like, you know?
well, it's
say
probably
there's-
more, it's probably more than that, yes, I'd like to know, you know, what they're doing there too, how many calls for service. But back in the old days, some of us remember, we'd pick the dogs up, Chuck Ball, remember, he was the constable, remember that? Seriously. So, when we don't have a constable to pick the dogs up, to take to, Humane Society.
Does this have to be acted on in this meeting? Or can
Well, I
we
think
ask
if you
for-
wanna get the 1.5% annual fee discount,
Which is
with-
$50.
yeah, paying it within 30 days, I don't know what it would be if you didn't want that.
Well,
with
do you
the
know,
timeline.
right, but do you know to the question of how many times did we use their services in 23?
I would say 3.
So we're paying $1,100 per event.
I'll pick them up.
Now, as soon as we,
For that money, $1,000 a kill.
I'll go let some loose.
but as soon as we don't do it, there'll be a pack of wild dogs running through town. That seems expensive for the number of, but what's the alternative?
So I do have an alternative,
Okay.
is, if we're, last year we talked about establishing a fee schedule, what if we put it on as a special charge, like, I'm speaking from prior experience as an employee in a municipality, of having to pick up the same damn dog once a month because it always got out from its run and blah, 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 whatever. It was the historical abuser that, I mean, do we try to recoup some of this through secondary fees or not? That was my
You charging back the owners?
That was my cat jail question of if they just pay room and board at like a hotel, or if you actually have bail money that you also have to pay.
Well, when they go there, do they have a pickup fee?
I know they do have to pay to get the animal back. I don't
But they
know.
keep that money as well as our money.
Yes,
Can we not charge the owner back?
Well, they do.
Well, that's,
Owners? That's what you're saying.
right.
Do
If
they,
it's $150, I don't know,
Right.
maybe whatever.
do they offer an option of pay-as-you-go per incident? Like, maybe it's $500 an instance, but if it's only 3, you're paying $1,500 a year instead of $3,300. They don't,
I don't see that in the contract they have, so I don't know if they do or not.
have they asked?
Well, I don't have a problem tabling this for 1 month if, whatever questions you have. Laura reaches out to them, finds out for the next meeting.
So the question, Rob, was pay per incident.
Right, I mean, the discussion with them would be, we had 3 or 4, and for $3,300, that's $1,000, $1,100 per incident. Do they offer an option of just paying per incident, even if it seems like a high amount, $300, $400, whatever dollars, it's still less than an annual contract. I mean, we could still do a contract on a per incident. One, do they even offer such a thing? Will they consider such an option? And then, what do we, I don't think this would be a question for them, it's a question for us. What do we need to do to charge back, if we would decide to, charge back the owners?
Well, they do that in the village, don't they? They got a pickup fee. Don't they?
Nope.
I thought they did. Well, they could get a
Well,
citation.
They might now, they didn't 8 years ago.
In the village, you get a citation.
Correct. Especially if it was unlicensed, but after that, that's how I got my first dog. Nobody came and picked her up, so I took her home. Ever seen a 2-year-old dog that weighs 27 pounds and she's supposed to be 65? You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but nonetheless. In any event, I would move that we table this till next month so we can get information on the potential for a per incident fee from the Humane Society, as well as the last 2 years, I believe is the only 2 years we've had them do this, correct?
No, just last year.
Last year was the only year?
Yeah,
Okay.
What was it before that?
it was an individual person. Marion Schultz? Might have been? Or someone else, I don't remember, but it was an individual person.
Anybody interested?
That has,
Well,
that has a
negotiated
boarding
prices.
license.
What's that?
That has a boarding license.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So a motion's been made to table item 4.
Second.
Okay. Providing, or Laura's going to
I'll reach out to them.
reach out to them and find out the per incident fees, et cetera, as mentioned.
And get last year's data.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Number 5, discussion and possible action on 2022-003 ordinance regulating engine braking on the town of Palmyra roads. I asked for that to be put on again, and a couple of these things here that aren't going over too well here towards the end. There's certain criteria where you can post these signs, and we don't have suburbs in the town. You could get away with posting around the lake. I don't think there's too many semis running around Shore Drive, okay? But they're hammering away on 59 out by SNR. Hey, maybe you can help us with that. Posting that no engine braking.
That's what we're used to.
Well, that'd be the other side,
Right.
okay?
John?
Coming down Horseman's Park into the village, they'll wake you up, they'll wake us up. You know where we live. Coming down through the forest, I can hear them before the entrance of the park, the Jake brakes coming down that hill, It'll just shake the house.
Okay, I've spoke with Tyson Barnes, and there's certain criteria by the state of Wisconsin, so I wanted state roads posted. Well, you go to that, and it's a whole different ballgame, you get it posted that way. Let me check with the lawyer, simple question, maybe we can get it done around, Highway H near Blue Spring Lake, cause it's certainly not going around the lake, but Highway H, I can see them doing it there.
Yeah, they do. And coming into the 40, going the other direction too.
Well, you'd have to have the Palmyra Police enforce yours.
I cleared a honey hole for them, they call it the honey hole now, right in the woods. And the squad goes right back up into the trees,
Can you
and
tell
they've
us
been
where
getting,
that's at?
it's right next to our driveway. And they've gotten cars both leaving the village and coming in the village of doing 67, 68 miles an hour
Right.
in a 25.
Let me do some checking about Little Prairie Road, because it has to do with residents' feet, so many distances apart, and other criteria. But I'm not gonna luck out on a state road where Blaine Darshak and Joanne Milky would certainly like to see it posted before the chicken farm. Personally, I would too on 106, cause they just hammer right there to turn on Calkins Road. So I'll do some more checking on that, so let's just table this if that's all right.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to table this item until I get more information to the next meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Oh, okay. Motion is still carried though. Okay, here's another one, discussion of possible action on 2024-001, amending 2022-007 ordinance establishing ATV, UTV routes and regulations on town of Palmyra roads. All this has to do with is trying to get it legally open to Wilson's. And by the way, the road just passed right at Wilson's is really a town road. It's second driveway, not the restaurant driveway. With the next one, you turn right, it's a town road, Transport Drive. Well, I tried to work this, the village and the town had to do this together because we both have properties in and out of the village. We got shut down. They don't cater to businesses. Okay, that's what I'm told. That's not going to go over. The state will not approve that extension.
To transport.
Drive, just past Wilson's, right there at the west end of their building. It's not going to happen. The only possible leap of faith effort to get it there now is the village asking, I came up with this one, the village asking to be open to Industrial Boulevard and drop the speed limit to 35 because of the new distribution center. Maybe they would do that. If they did it to 35, then the village overrules the state in the 35-mile-an-hour zone. So that's the only way. And I'm gonna talk to Kathy about that, but maybe the state would listen on that, because, the police department was worried about traffic in that area, more congestion and so on and so forth. But that's the last, straw, we'll try it, so we'll table this. Make a motion to table number 6. Should I say indefinitely? No. For 2 months,
So for the
March meeting. Is
Any
there,
discussions with the village, is that?
yeah, we'll, if they wanna try that, fine, if they don't, it's a dead issue, it's all over.
Second.
Any further discussion?
What part of our ordinance do we have to change?
No, you don't have, you have.
Well, if you were going to change it, so you had the original ordinance and then there was an update to it. So there was an amendment to the original one. I wasn't quite sure if we were amending the amendment or amending the first one, but if you look at the ordinance there, what I did is I basically just created a letter C under section 4, where it said the town of Palmyra extends the UTV road on Highway 59 to Industrial Boulevard. I mean, that was just a preliminary write-up of it, so.
Right,
Because our ordinance essentially is all roads except
Those two.
South Shore and North Blue Spring, which has a speed limit.
Right,
Those were
right.
adopted on the.
Yeah, that was the amendment to allow it for out there based on the speed limit.
right,
It's
because,
already in here.
yeah,
So that was, I guess that was my question, is if it's everything except Blue Spring Lake roads, do
Well,
we have to?
It's not even them now, cause they're already amended in.
Well, right, I mean,
So-
well, that was another motion, we did the original ordinance, skipping Blue Spring Lake Road and what is it, North Blue Spring?
South Shore and
South Shore, North Blue Spring Lake Road,
Yep.
because supposedly people didn't want it around the lake. Well, 2 or 3 months later, the board that you sit on came back and said, yep, we want it open, but with a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, so then we had to amend the original one to add Blue Spring Lake Road, South Shore Drive. So that's, yeah, that one right there.
But then this is strictly a village issue.
Right, but
If they wanna change speed limit on 59 out there to get there, but it's already, Transport Drive is already approved based on this, isn't that how you read it?
Or is it because the eastbound lane of 59 is in the town of Palmyra? Is that,
well, you know, that you think about it, that is Transport Drive. I'm asked, you know, the long shot with the village going on to Industrial Boulevard because there's no other access. Even the guy I talked to, there's no other access. He said, I don't feel good about this one, but you could try it because he's supposed to have whatever, and you can tell wherever houses in the village, town, et cetera. Looking at something when I was talking to him, and, well, you could try it. But again, if Transport Drive is a road and we need access to it, and there's no other way to get there, maybe,
well, yeah, my point is that if all of our roads are ATV roads though, regardless of whatever the state allows or doesn't allow, we've said if it can, it will, right?
except if this were to go through, just like the village, opening from Mill Street to Zion Road, they had to stop because of what happened, the speed limit switched to 40 mile an hour around where the bridge is, right, on Wilson's. Well, the county has to actually change their ordinance to allow state road within Jefferson County to be open from, I'll call it Mill Street to Zion Road. They have to rewrite or amend their ordinance. So they would have to do the same thing for the west end, and we have to put it in writing in our actual ordinance.
Okay.
Then it would have to be signed by official signs that the state requires, which are the same signs you see around, whatever. So,
We have a motion to delay it 2 months for,
right, can we close that?
we need to vote on it.
Do you have a second?
Was there a
I-
second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. And last thing, discussion of possible action on a contribution to Jefferson County Clean Sweep Program.
Has this ever been done in the past?
I couldn't find anything, so I didn't know if you'd be interested in that at all or not.
What's the cost?
Well, there's different amounts.
Whatever you wanna give them.
And turn it over.
Or pass the sheet around for every.
So this is a brand new program?
No.
No, but I think it's the first time they've done this, where they've gone to a lot of communities and asked for their support.
To help me safe and properly dispose of chemicals, unwanted expired pharmaceuticals, electronics, appliances. The Clean Sweep and Recycling Program offers resources for the appropriate disposal of hazardous substances to keep them out of the community and surrounding environment, excuse me. By working together as a community, we provide Jefferson County residents and businesses the means to safely dispose of hazardous waste materials. We are grateful for your support. Thank you in advance for considering and continued support.
I'm a little confused. We can contribute to, that's not surprising. $25 all the way up to whatever we want, right? Are there different levels of,
We don't get a start on the Walk of Fame.
but I mean, at a certain level, is there a Dropbox put here in the town? I mean, what do we get from this?
Nothing.
Well, we're just giving them the money to take care of the stuff. There you go.
What? What?
Hey, I said pat on the back.
Gotcha.
They use it to offset all the other program costs. Why it's not,
I mean, is this communicated to our residents, and what's the process for our residents to use this, to take advantage of it?
I do post something up on the website when they provide the information from Jefferson County.
I think at least we should put this on our website. Maybe between the 1,200 individuals in this community, they'll end up with more than what we'd be willing to do in these three.
Well, I've got a figure I'm looking at on here. Don't know.